So for the first bit of this question, I'm going to go through what feedback we gathered after showing our film. As you would have seen earlier on in my blog, we had a viewing at school where around sort of 10 to 15 people attended, and it was optional, but after watching it we asked each of them to write down we gave them pieces of paper and we told them to write down 3 things they liked and 3 things they disliked, sort of keep it quite simple. We had a whiteboard, so we wrote on the board things for them to maybe look out for, whether it be like lighting or the Enigma codes, because most of them weren't actually media students. So we didn't want them to write sort of all the same basic things like, oh, I liked a certain shot or something, which was good, but we wanted a variety of feedback, not all the same thing. So we gave them some subtle sort of hints to look out for, and this is what we gathered from the people who viewed our film at school at that viewing. So although they're not very clear, I took these pictures just to show that we had actually got people to comment on our video and we're not just obviously making it up. But I didn't want to bore you by literally just talking through all of them, so I'll just talk about the main positive and negative points from the point of view of sound, camera work, mise-en-scene and editing, and then for each one say what I've learnt from it. So firstly, from most of the viewers, that they said that the sound used worked sort of very well in conjunction with what was going on in the scene, so it linked well with the scene, and also the contrast between some sounds. And a quote was, "A really good choice of music, relevant and appropriate for each of the scenes." However, a negative would have been that, I quote, "there wasn't any sound at the end other than the music playing, which I thought was a bit odd." And this is a fair point and one that we would look into. However, we did actually purposely do this to create more of an eerie type atmosphere. So from these comments about sound, I have learnt from the feedback that the transitions and sound used are very smooth and go well with the scenes, which is good because that's obviously what we wanted to try and create. However, in places the wind especially gets in the way, and also from the last comment I've just mentioned, in trying to create this effect at the end, it possibly didn't work as well as we had hoped. So there are some things that we could definitely change when possibly doing sound at another point. So next, I'm moving on to the camera work. Things we got that it was very clear, and there were a variety of shots used, which made it a lot more interesting. And quote, there was a nice use of the canted angle of Jake outside Scarlett's house when he realises that her dad had killed his dad. Negatives were that it was quite dark at the end and not very clear. And someone quoted that it felt like it was being home recording, which was very interesting to read. And so what I've learned from the feedback on the camera work is that our time filming lots of lots of different shots had paid off, because I'm pleased that people sort of appreciate the types of different shots we used. Because yeah, like I said, we spent a lot of time concentrating on that. And the comment on the home recording was very interesting, because we wanted to give the effect that it was a point of view shot, but not that it was a home recording. So we could change that in a way that, like in the way it was put across, and possibly make the shot a bit more steady than it actually was originally. So next there is the mise-en-scene, and people like the use of the red lipstick and the dress, and also the Venetian blinds, and most people commented on that, and the ones that were actually doing media and knew of the film noir genre said that it was good because they were typical conventions. And also I quote that someone said she really liked the use of the iPhone as it made it seem a lot more modern, which I'll comment on in a bit. The negatives were that there weren't actually any negative comments on that I could see on the pieces of paper about the mise-en-scene, which is obviously brilliant because it means that no one noticed anything that wasn't quite right. Going back to comment on the positives, I'm glad that people noticed like these little things like the lipstick and the blinds and stuff, because we really did try really hard to include them. And also going to the comment on the iPhone, again we tried to sort of twist the genre a little bit and try and make it a bit more modern. modern neo noir. So yeah, that's what we were trying to create. So overall, that's good. So after this, we got quite a few bits of feedback from the people that watched it. Like, most of them did leave us a comment. But next we made a group message on Facebook, which included about 20 people, including ourselves. Unfortunately, as we expected, not everyone replied, but we sort of got about 5 or 6 replies. We sent the link of our film and asked the people in the message just to comment on what they liked and disliked about it, but also told them to be critical and not just point out the good bits, because we wanted to make sure we had sort of both sides of the argument, and what they felt didn't go so well as obviously the good bits. Similarly to what we did with the people watching the film for the first time at school. For our feedback, we concentrated more on the sort of the teenage range of our target audience, which is 15 to 30. So we did most of our Facebook feedback from the younger range of our group, it ranged from about 15 to 22. And I'm just going to go through what people said and then analyse it afterwards when I go into more depth about what I got from my audience feedback. And finally, we have the editing, and for this one I'm going to talk sort of in general about the positives and negatives. So people said that the editing was very smooth and throughout the actual film, and the quote was that it was almost seamless. However, there was a quote that said a few bits were a bit jumpy, which I would definitely have to agree with. And so what I got from these comments were that overall it was very positive. However, to get rid of the jumpy bits, we would definitely have to possibly film them again, or be very, very precise in the editing suite. The feedback we got on the Facebook page. First of all, it's from Daryl Meadows, and he said it's really good. I didn't see it the first time around, so yeah, I enjoyed watching that. The story, referring back to that he didn't see it when we showed it at school. The storyline is good, and I like that it goes into more detail than most, but we're also left guessing why Jake isn't invited out, then suddenly told to sort of go away. And he likes the Enigma codes, and he thought it was just generally really good. Really effective shots with focusing and defocusing, makes it look more professional. Also, the music ties in really well, reflects what you're thinking. And he also said it's really good acting. And he goes on to say, bad, I'm not sure what's bad about it, but I'll have a think. So then he goes on to say, okay, if I'm really picky about it, maybe the car as Rosie leaves the pub could be a bit quieter. The reflection on the window and phones make it difficult to see, but I think that can be effective for keeping it mysterious, etc. So not a huge problem. Maybe some of the flashback lighting gets onto the faces a bit, and again, not that big of a problem, but they're the only 3 things he can think of. So overall from Daryl, very, very positive. And then next we have Hannah Reynolds. She said, I really like the camera shot she used. It added intriguing to the characters and the storyline. The lighting was really effective as well as the music choices. If I had to pick up on a couple of things out, it would be for the first interaction between Jake and Rosie and Dom. It could have been extended so it explained a little bit more of the story. And the image of Rosie and her dad behind the window when Jake's watching on could have been a bit clearer, as it was hard to see, but that is literally the only thing. Really good film, enjoyed watching it, well done to all. So she's referring to the bit where Jake's outside on the phone and he's looking through the window. It's not very clear. Next we have Olivia Joy. She liked the way Jake's character's background and the family is introduced at the start through the voiceover and flashbacks. It sets the scene nicely and was really nice flow into the rest of the film, which repeats the flashbacks, and it created a good continuous theme. Like the multiple use of locations, thought it really added to the story and made it more interesting and realistic, added to the storyline as well. She specifically liked the scene outside Rosie's character's house when Jake's character realises that Rosie's dad was the murderer. The emotions were portrayed extremely well and realistic. allowing the audience to feel a connection to the characters. I felt it was a great twist to the storyline. The camera angles were also great, e.g. showing Rosie's character and her dad arguing through the window. The only negative that she could think of was that she didn't really think the scene where my character gets in a sort of little scuffle with Jake's character up against lockers added much to the story, but overall it was a really good. She really enjoyed watching it. Next we have Amber Holt, and she put, "That's really amazing, guys. I really like how you've changed it to the modern day and not the traditional sort of 1940s, 1950s. I really like the range of shots you've used and really they look really effective and professional. In particular, I really like the shot of Scarlett walking back through the pub door to leave. This is a typical convention of film noir, like the mirrors and the reflections, and I really liked it, how you've challenged the typical conventions. I really enjoyed the storyline as it was believable, and I loved the twist at the end. I really like how you included a voiceover. It makes the audience more aware of the storyline. Only one thing I would say is be careful with the violence, but overall it's amazing." From Ellie Duckle, she put, "Love the use of music and flashbacks at the beginning with the voiceover. It really effective and helps make the narrative really clear. The acting is awesome. The use of iPhones reinforces the modernism of the film and relates to your audience. There is a variety of camera movement and camera angles, and helps create the intense atmosphere in the different scenes. And like the use of the older actors, for example, Rosie's and my dad's, because she liked the use of the older actors." Next is Catherine Barrett, and all the different locations used to make the piece look very professional and more believable. The chosen music goes really well with the storyline and helps set the atmosphere, and I like how the volume increases at the beginning when the voiceover is finished. The flashback of Jake's dad helps us as an audience feel close and sympathetic to Jake's character, as we can put a face to the name. The different camera angles and change in focus isn't overused, but when it is, it's effective and it looks really good. And yeah, from our Facebook feedback, that is all we gathered. So for the next part of my research, research into the feedback, I firstly wanted to use a website called Monkey Survey, where you send off some questions along with, in my case, a link to the video for people watching and answer the questions. But unfortunately, I tried this, but it was a lot more difficult in this format to actually receive replies. No matter how much I sort of pestered people and stuff like that, I think in the end I only got 2 back. So I didn't want to use the feedback I got from this because it just wasn't significant enough. There wasn't enough to put into graphs and stuff, which is what the website does automatically for you. So, which was quite annoying. But because I still wanted to do some further research into my feedback, especially from the older, sort of the higher range of my target audience, because previously I've done sort of 12 to 22, so I wanted to do that 22 to 30 range. It was a bit annoying that I had to do it this way, but it's on here. They're the questions I asked, and I just went around school, but this time with a questionnaire. But this time I went to sort of the teachers and the teachers who are under 30, but to make sure that I had feedback from the whole range of people. And on this questionnaire that I had, the main 2 bits were what did you like and what did you not like about the film. So this bit coming up is just going to be about what they liked and disliked. Firstly, from one of the females, she particularly liked our use of the noise and sort of the flashing of our production company, and how we had also got the focus features one that actually had effects on it, like it moved. So yeah, she particularly liked how we had done this and how we had got this bit as well. but from the film itself, she did say how she really liked the flashbacks here. And she said she liked it because it sort of got you thinking. It wasn't just, you weren't just listening to Jake, you were listening to Jake, but you were also thinking about what these flashback means and everything. So next from one of the males, he said, I'm doing this in order so I don't have to keep flicking like back and forth from the thing. So he said that he really enjoyed, well, he said he liked the flashbacks as well, but he also really enjoyed this transition here where it goes into Jake's back and then back out again from someone else's back. And he said he really liked that because he thought it was really effective. And to start with, it put him off a bit because he thought that was Jake, but then obviously when it reveals it's not actually Jake, so that made him think, like, who is this character, and why isn't it Jake? Like, what's Jake got to do with him? Next, we had one of the females, and she said that she really liked this bit. It was another video transition of when it goes from outside and then into the pub. She said, although it doesn't look as good as it would in a professional film, she said it creates that sort of extra bit that she felt worked really well. And like I said, it was not, she felt it didn't go as smoothly as it could, but from what we had available, like camera wise and effects wise, as it were, she felt that was a really good bit. She really liked it. From one of the males, we had, he didn't say sort of on one bit he liked, he went more in general and said that he really liked all the mise-en-scene, and that he really liked the red, and how the red like sort of symbolises the danger and throughout the film as well, not just in these bits. And he also said he really enjoyed the acting. Next, going on to one of the females again. She said that she liked the bit. Oh, I'm not on it yet. The bit. Wait. She said she liked this bit when Jake's dad, Rosie's dad, turned up, but also this bit because Jake's sort of like confused as like, who is this guy and what's he doing. But this bit in particular, when Jake's quite dark and shadow, she said it creates quite a mysterious effect, and then when you see his reflection in the window, that adds to it as well. And she said she liked how when Rosie's dad drives off, he turns the light off, and it sort of makes it go like dark and, as it were. So then, as you probably noticed by now, I'm going male, female, male, female. So back to one of the males, he said that he really liked this bit and how like the music changed, like the contrast in music. And he said that he really enjoyed the acting here. But not only that, he said his favourite bit was when Jake actually phones him up, and then you see it through the window that it's Scarlett's dad that actually picks up the phone, and then like the shock on Jake's face when he realises that must have been the guy who murdered his dad. And then should have gone back. Back to the last and final female. She said that she really enjoyed the music the whole way through. She said it really flowed very well from the start and when it, like, the contrast changed here, like the loudness of it, and like she liked how the music complemented the image and how it flowed well with it. And then finally, with the last male, he said, again, he was a little bit vague, but he really enjoyed the storyline as a whole, and he especially liked the twist at the end where obviously Michael gets killed, and then it goes up to reveal that it's actually Scarlett, sorry, that's actually killed her own dad, and he said that twist like really added to it, and that was his favourite bit of the whole film. From the feedback I collected for this older audience, I noticed that there was sort of one thing that stood out regarding what they disliked, and they all sort of mentioned it in a way, and this was the bit, firstly, where Rosie actually stabs her dad, and they thought it could have been a bit more, not dramatic, but it could have been done a bit better, which is fair enough, it's their own opinion. And also just the bit where, a bit like Olivia said, that the bit with me having Jake up against the lockers, they thought that was a little bit unnecessary, but it added a little bit, but it wasn't really that key to be in the film. So overall, from all the feedback, I feel that our strongest points in our film are definitely a variety of different camera shots and sort of angles and pans, etc., and also the voiceover at the beginning, because pretty much everyone seemed to comment on that. They said it worked really well. From a storyline point of view, people seemed to really enjoy the Enigma codes, which I'm very happy with, as we tried really hard as a group to concentrate on getting these in the storyline and making them work. And also the majority seemed to love the twist at the end. We had a few negatives on that, but most people seemed to love the twist at the end, and they all said it made them want to watch more. However, more importantly, I feel, is sort of the negative feedback, because it means you can, you can get this feedback and then build on it to make sure, and if you were to do it again, it would be a lot better. And from what we gathered, there were a few continuity errors, for example, in the pub with Rosie and her straw, which was very, very annoying, I must admit, and the lighting was also an issue brought up by pretty much everyone in the end scene. These were the two main sort of negative points, and by gathering this feedback, it will mean that if we were to do this this project again, I would try and create a tiny bit more light to make the scene less grainy, and also be really, really on the lookout whilst filming and obviously editing on the continuity, to just make sure it's like spot on.